What's going on, Jet fans? The wait is finally over. Justin Fields is officially our new starting quarterback in 2025. But what can we expect from him in 2025? Is he the answer at quarterback or just another stopgap? Let's break it all down, guys. What's up, Jet fans? I'm Julian Lacosto, and this is the Gangrene Report, joined with my co-host, as always, Nick Perry. Guys, if you're tuning in, hit that like button on your way in and subscribe to the channel for more Jets content all off-season long. Guys, Justin Fields is officially here. Officially signed. As reported, the Jets have signed him to a 2-year, $40 million deal worth up to $30 million guaranteed. While we all thought the dollar amount was a bit high with the growing salary cap, we have to understand that when that goes up, so do the value of all these positions and their contract values as a result. Plus, the way it was structured, it actually gives the Jets a lot of flexibility in free agency since they added 4 more years, making the base salary only about $5 million. So it's only an $8 million cap, which will then go up the following year. So that will jump up to about $20 million with $10 million guaranteed the following year and about $23 million a cap hit. But that's seriously only about 7% of the league cap anyway. So taking that into consideration, and I think he's only like the 21st highest paid quarterback with that salary anyway. So we're still getting a pretty good bargain if this ends up working out in our favor. Fields joins a quarterback room that includes journeyman Tyrod Taylor and second-year quarterback Jordan Travis, who, again, we haven't really seen, so we don't really know what he is for the New York Jets. At this point, he's kind of on a tryout basis from what it seems like. But considering the price, it seems like Fields will be the Jets' penciled-in starter, although time will tell. Nick, how do you feel about the current state of our quarterback room as it stands now with the addition of Justin Fields?
Yeah, I honestly, like looking at it, I honestly love the look of our quarterback room at this time. Not only did we invest in like you said, a super low, 4 avoidable years, only 21st rated quarterback in the league this year, but we have what most players and coaches, I think, would consider the best backup option as well with Tyrod Taylor. So we know what we're kind of getting with Justin Fields. He's improved year over year. I think Tyrod is, like you said, the journeyman of the NFL. He's been everywhere. I think through his career, and then going back to Justin Fields, I think even his career, even on the Bears, he's been blessed with solid backup quarterbacks. So I believe he had like Nick Foles. He took over for Trubisky, Nick Foles, a couple other guys there. Tyrod kind of takes the cake there. So I think that adds a huge piece to the quarterback room. I feel good about this as well because he can learn from Tyrod, coming in with a whole new regime, both coaching and overall staff in the facility really gives Justin a good feel to cater his style to the new system. And I think that he'll work closely with the staff and Engstrand to really get that going. And that really excites me because we saw, we mentioned it 50 times, but like we've seen the offense in Detroit. I hope to God our offense resembles somewhat of that. It looks fantastic. And then, Tyrod, how can you be mad about him backing him up? And then, like you said, Jordan Travis as the third string, just very unproven. I really liked Jordan Travis coming out of college. I tell you all the time, I would just love just to see him play just a little bit to see what we got. I think he could be something really special. Unfortunately, he got that terrible injury at the end of college and rumors about us rushing him back and all that. It's crazy, but I think something that you really want to discuss today is what should Jets fans expect from Justin Fields at quarterback one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, obviously I'm ecstatic about the room. I think, like you said, there's unproven potential with JT. We just haven't seen him play. I'm not saying that he's going to come in and light the world on fire, but you never know what you have in somebody until you actually see what they play like. So maybe we'll get to see him for a couple snaps in preseason. Who knows? But as it turns out, obviously Justin Fields is going to be our guy. So what should Jet fans expect from Justin Fields as our quarterback one? While I'm not ready to dub him the franchise savior, there's a lot to like about Justin Fields. First of all, there's a lesson to learn, obviously, with recent resurgence from guys like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith. We probably shouldn't completely write a guy off without actually getting him into the room with a quality coaching staff and supporting cast, which he didn't really have in his career in Chicago. And the thing about his time in Chicago is, that offensive line was terrible, and he had virtually no weapons most of the time there aside from DJ Moore, and that was really only one season in 2023. But even that could go to show that he was an elite weapon for him, and he can funnel him the ball. So DJ Moore had about 96 receptions for 1,300 yards. He was sixth in the league at that point. I think he had like 1,364 yards and 8 touchdowns, which was seventh in the league at that time. So both would essentially be career highs for Garrett Wilson. So I think, and those two already have a connection based on their college careers together. He's young, only 26 years old, has tons of experience as a starting quarterback in this league, and his physical tools are still really undeniable, seeing as he was the third quarterback in NFL history to rush for over 1,000 yards, joining Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson. If we're getting any version of those two quarterbacks, I think we're in a good spot. He's not only that though, he broke Vick's single game rushing record with 178 yards. I know many will say he isn't the greatest passer, but you can't deny that he's also got quite the arm on him, and he's improved year in and year out as a passer. This past season with the Steelers, I believe he had the highest QBR in his entire career. I think it was like a 96.3 or something of that nature. He was up really high compared to the last previous years of his career. But Nick, what are your thoughts on Justin Fields up until this point in his career, and your thoughts on him as the quarterback going forward for potentially not just 2025, but even further with the New York Jets?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely just, well, first of all, it's definitely exciting to get a quarterback of his caliber, especially with his running ability. So that's obviously the thing that stands out to everybody, stands out to all Jet fans, everybody around the league, is his running ability is just unmatched. Like you said, breaking Vic's record with Lamar and single game record. I think it's a good sign for the Jet staff for the upcoming season, and it's a good sign for us as fans. Each year he has seen, like you said, little steps forward. I think the things he stepped forward well in his career is ball security and limiting turnovers, which I think will be huge with this new team because of our previous teams having such turnover issues. I think he just brings a great locker room presence as well, as guys and respect him on and off the field. So not only are his stats improving, but I think him as a person improving. And I think that, we all know how far that can go in the league. Rumors fly. AG says he wants to keep everything in house now. It's going to be no leaks. So I think improving him as a person as well is great. My only biggest concern with Justin Fields, with him coming to New York, is obviously the media and the New York media, the New York market. We know how much reporters and writers, anchors, everybody just loves to take shots at our team. We can come off a 30-point blowout win against somebody and they'll only talk about the negatives of the game. Oh, he made an incomplete pass. Oh, he fumbled here. Let's not talk about the 4 touchdowns he threw. But it is what it is. We're just the New York Jets. So that's what people think. And I think he can, honestly, I really think he could give us something special here. I think we all know as well, for us, we have some boo birds in the stands when we start not playing well. But I think that it'll only make him stronger, and he'll get through the New York media for sure. And I think that he's just constantly improving, and there's nothing to show that he's going to downgrade, especially with Garrett Wilson as a top target here who has a connection with.
Yeah, I think that's probably the obvious plus side of Justin Fields, is that he has connections with guys that are already in the building. You talk about Garrett already. We talk about, we haven't obviously talked about him enough, but Jeremy Ruckert having that connection. Maybe there's a potential resurgence with his play because he hasn't been doing well the last couple of years here. Maybe that improves the ability of his play. I always thought going into the draft when we brought him in, obviously he's a New York Jets fan, but, he was a decent pass catcher in Ohio State when he had Justin Fields throwing him the ball. Maybe that kind of brings that back in him. Who knows? But, going into what I believe is my comp for Justin Fields and what I feel like could really be a good, realistic blueprint as to what this team could look like under Justin Fields, my comp is essentially a poor man's Walmart version of Jalen Hurts from 2021. And I know a lot of people are going to jump down my throat saying, Jalen Hurts, don't compare him. They just won the Super Bowl, but we can't deny that the two kind of have a similar game that we can potentially be seen replicated here in New York. In 2021, the Eagles under Nick Sirianni were 9-8. They weren't a phenomenal team, but they ran a very similar West Coast style scheme that we plan to be running under Tanner Angstra. And so Jalen Hurts had himself a pretty decent statistical year. I'm not saying Fields will essentially replicate these marks by any means, but he threw for 3,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions on 61% completion percentage. I know to the eye, the yards look great, but the touchdowns and completion percentage doesn't look great. But he had a 78% adjusted completion percentage that year, which was very unheard of at that time, one of the highest adjusted completion percentages. And for those that don't know what that means, it's basically an adjusted completion percentage doesn't factor in things that are out of control for the quarterback. And that's why, personally, in my opinion, I always like to look at the adjusted numbers versus the actual percentage, because quarterbacks can't control whether or not they put the ball in the right spot, but the wide receiver drops the ball, or they were wide open, but when they got the ball thrown their way, the ball bounced off their chest and it just didn't go in their hands. So that's why, seeing that although he threw 61%, he still managed to throw around 78% adjusted, meaning those guys were open. They were just dropping the ball most of the time. So that's something that I really feel like the thing that I like about this for Fields is that he thrived in a similar offense that did tons of similar things that they did in those Eagles teams. So playing through the play action and middle of the field passing. When using those play actions since 20, Fields has a 94.3 passer rating and a 7.7 yards per attempt and about 10-3 touchdown to interception ratio on middle of the field pass attempts. So basically, those are your pass attempts that target the middle third of the field, 0 to 19 yards downfield. Fields is 150 out of 191 for 1,638 yards and 8 touchdowns in that part of the field. So when you account for Fields' adjusted percentage in the middle of the field, he's actually 81.7%, which gives him a ton of potential in this offense to be really explosive for the New York Jets. I feel like you mentioned, Nick, the biggest issues over the past couple of years of his career is his ball security. He had a bad habit of holding onto the ball, resulting in a lot of sacks, even a couple of fumbles. Fumbles have really been a big issue for him the last several years. His turnovers decreased a lot in Pittsburgh. He had 5 touchdown passes to 1 interception, but he still had a few fumbles and turnover-worthy plays that just luckily didn't go the other way. So I'm hoping that with the improved scheme and coaching and potential, Fields can have that career resurgence that we're hoping that we've seen out of a lot of other quarterbacks in the past. The thing that also creates some similarities within our two teams right now is the receiving numbers. So at that time, Devontae Smith was his only big-time receiver. Obviously, you look at the numbers, he did about 64 yards, 916 receptions for 5 touchdowns. Quez Watkins was his number 2. 43 receptions, 647 yards and a touchdown. And then Jalen Reagor, 33 receptions for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. To me, this looks a lot similar to what we could emulate with our current crew and potentially, obviously, guys that we could potentially add in. But Garrett Wilson averaged 1,000+ yards in back-to-back seasons as a wide receiver 1. Touchdown numbers have consistently gone up over those years as well. So if you're saying that Garrett Wilson's going to be another 1,000-yard receiver, which we all think he's going to be. So that will already surpass Devonta Smith's numbers. As of right now, Allen Lazard is on the roster. So obviously, I don't think he'll be here long term. He might even be a cut candidate before camp. But even if he is on this roster, his best season, he had 788 yards in 2022. I think he can still give you 500 to 600 yards if he has to be on this roster as a wide receiver 3, maybe. And then obviously we have guys like Tyler Johnson, Malachi Corley that we brought in that could obviously fight for that wide receiver 3 spot and give you between 300 to 400 yards. I still think we can add a big time option at wide receiver 2 in the draft. And Lazard is ultimately, like I said, I think he could be a cut or traded once Rodgers ultimately makes his decision. But if we keep him, I guess we have to kind of roll with this room for a year. But Nick, I want to turn it over to you. What are your thoughts about this comp, and what do you think about the current state of our wide receiver room compared to the 2021 Eagles team?
Well, this just pains me. Live in Pennsylvania now, and the Eagles are just the bane of my existence now.
Yeah.
These fans are just unbearable. I think Jets fans are pretty bad sometimes. You guys don't even know until you live in Pennsylvania. But I think honestly, like with the comparison, it's pretty spot on. Like we said, we aren't comparing the Super Bowl winning team Eagles to us or anything of the sorts. But look back at it, it's very pretty eerily similar. And look where the Eagles are now. So, I mean, if we can be half of what they are this year, half of what they were, or if we could be what they were at that time, and even half of what they are now in another year or two, I think that'd be great. I'm hoping our future number 2 wide receiver for the team will have a better showing than Quez Watkins, but who will that be? Like you said, I think the draft is pretty deep. I think we'll have a good shot at a wide receiver 2 in the draft. Also, I think Tyler Johnson has proven to be able to put up the stats listed by Reagor as well, who is an absolute bust for the Eagles, which I love. I love to talk about them passing over Justin Jefferson and the Vikings laughing at them in the draft. I love to bring that up.
Yep.
but now they won a Super Bowl. So yeah, there's that. But I love, and on top of picking them up, Justin Jefferson, Corley is so unproven. He would even beat those scores and stats, I believe, by the previous by a rigor. So I think we're set for a solid receiving room. They aren't going to jump off the charts, but I think it's very solid, and we'll be able to throw the ball around and spread it around. Justin can create plays with his legs. He can roll out if he needs to. He can kind of bail out. We all know quarterbacks get out of the pocket, wide receivers start running around. Garrett Wilson has that knack of just getting open downfield on these kind of plays. And like you said, if we have to bring Lazard back, I definitely think that we can get 500-600 yards out of him for sure. I mean, he has his moments for sure, but I think that we are very eerily similar to the Eagles, and I hate to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only major issue that obviously we have to bring up in this case, and the one thing that the Eagles have that we don't have on this roster right now, is that true pass catcher from the tight end spot. And that was their Dallas Goedert, obviously having over 830 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, I think the Jets' biggest issue right now is that tight end spot and wide receiver too. We let Conklin walk, brought in Stone Smart, who is young, has potential, again, unproven, but it's not really going to work next season unless we get that tight end one. But now that kind of gives us a clearer blueprint as to who the Jets could look to target in the upcoming draft. This puts Tyler Warren easily in at number 7 as somebody who could be there, and a much more enticing option since he isn't a clear pass catcher, but also a great run blocker as well. He's a threat as a runner. He could even throw the ball as well. And at the least, it tells you that they plan on adding a tight end at some point in the draft. Guys like, Mason Taylor, Harold Fenton Jr., Terrence Ferguson, Gunnar Helm, you name it. There's going to be guys available in other rounds, but at least we now know that that's probably somewhere where we're going to go. So for me, this Eagles team could be a realistic team to kind of emulate going into the 25 expectations for Justin Fields and this new offensive system. So guys, lastly, I want to leave you guys with a final stat prediction for Justin Fields this year. Myself, I'm going to go with 3,120 yards passing. I'm going to give him about 64% completion percentage. And we're going to go with around 25 to 28 touchdown passes to 10 interceptions. And I'm going to be a little lofty on the rushing because I feel like we're going to be a very run-heavy team. I'm giving him 130 to 140 carries, 850 yards rushing, and 6 to 8 touchdowns. I think we're just going to be a very run-heavy team. We're going to play a lot through the run. Brees, Braylon, Isaiah Davis, they're going to get the ball a lot in the backfield. There's going to be a lot of RPOs, a lot of, there's going to be a lot of trick plays, end arounds. I think we're going to primarily run the ball, and then we're going to unload the play action and let Garrett beat his man downfield, and we're going to see a lot of downfield passing as a result of our run game. So that's where my stat predictions are mainly coming from. I know, obviously, a lot of people are surprised by the touchdown numbers. Obviously, he's never really thrown that many touchdowns in his life so far his career. But, I'm a little bit optimistic. I definitely think that these could be some realistic numbers. Nick, give us your predictions to end out the show.
Yeah, I think I go a little bit higher on the yards. I think 3,300 yards passing, 62% completion percentage, so right where you're at. I went a little bit lower with 24 TD passes. I kind of agreed with you with the 10 interceptions. Rushing, I went actually a little quite bit lower with like 115 to 130 for 750 yards, but I went higher with the touchdowns, so I went 9 to 10 touchdowns. I think the only reason I say that is because I think the passing yards go up due to our improved offensive line. And he really wants to prove to people, especially with being let go by the Steelers and choosing the Jets. I think he really wants to show people that he's more of a polished passer now. I think the rushes come, absolutely. You can't take that away from his game. That is who he is. I think that's what makes him so incredible and what makes him so exciting. But I feel like they come when he's in like that dire need to get out of the pocket. The pocket collapses out of nowhere, or design run plays, not just from him scanning, can't find anything, nobody's open, he's out of option, he just takes off. So I think passing plays like that, I think he'll have to use his legs, but I hope they don't come up very often. And then, like I said, I think TDs go up because he's going to be used at the goal line a lot more with the running touchdowns. So I think the 9 and 10 includes normal run plays, but like you said, I think we're really going to hammer home Brees, Braylon, Davis this year. I think it's going to be great. Newly improved offensive line. Hope to God that works out. And I really love Justin Fields.
Yeah, man. I think there's a lot of potential in this offense. Who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, we have to wait till August, September to really see what that looks like, what our offense is going to look like. But guys, let us know in the comments below. What do you think of this comp for the 2025 Jets? And more importantly, what are your thoughts on Justin Fields? Give us your stat predictions below as well. Don't forget to throw us a like on the video on your way in. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, guys, go Jets.